It's time! And now, introducing your host, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Boston, Massachusetts, presenting live
the Bostonian versus the Book. Follow the show on Twitter at Boston versus the Book.
Here he is, Matt Huel!
Enjoy the show, enjoy the show, enjoy the show, enjoy the show.
That has to be fixed. I don't know why that's happening. What's up, boys and girls? How are you? The microphone doesn't want to turn on. You got to turn on my microphone. Got to get rolling here on a Wednesday for the Bostonian versus the Book. My name is Matt Peralta. We are live on YouTube and on X. That handle for both at Boston versus the Book. We're replayed on Sports Grid Television, 1 a.m. Eastern time, and we get rolling with the audio podcast pretty much about 20 minutes or so following the conclusion of this 1 hour in 20 minute, whatever long we go here, but 1 full hour on Sports Grid Monday through Friday. Today in the program, John Harbaugh gets fired. The fallout, it's significant. Where he goes next is really interesting, but I think we can spend some time talking about what happens next for the Ravens. It's not just that your 18-year head coach has been fired. It's why was he fired? And according to reports, he was fired because he lost the locker room. But to some, he lost one player, and that's Lamar Jackson. Do we now have to put that on the resume for Lamar Jackson, that he got a Super Bowl winning coach fired? And where do the Ravens go with Lamar in the future? Do you pick player or coach? I tend to pick coach. That's where I am. Coaches tend to last longer if they are successful, but we'll see where the Ravens go. And then there were 7 jobs that called on Harbaugh after he got fired. The problem, there's only 6 job openings currently in the NFL. Okay, that's a little awkward. Reports are that Miami made a phone call for John Harbaugh. We'll do that. We've got an interesting news of the industry conversation to be had about sports gambling and a viral video that was put out by Dave Ramsey, the financial podcaster, who has now echoed the same comments by guys like Scott Galloway and others about sports betting being the number one detriment and destructive force in America for young men. And I just have something I got to say about it. We got to push back a little bit because I don't think people are doing the appropriate response to guys like Dave Ramsey. So we will do that coming up later on in the program. We've got some games to pick tomorrow, semifinal action, college football, 2 games, 1 Thursday, 1 Friday, picks on both. And then I got a couple college basketball bets that we can make coming up here for today. It is a unique day because I can't wait for tomorrow in the 5 days for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to Monday that we're going to get from a football perspective. So I'm excited that this Harbaugh news dropped because it gives us a chance to talk about some things that are interesting going on in the NFL. But I do want to get into other things on the field as well as what we're talking about off the field. But first and foremost, opening line, the future for John Harbaugh, but also the future for the Ravens. It is the opening line being presented by our friends at Huel. What is next for both the Ravens and for John Harbaugh? As I told you guys on Monday, these guys are back sponsoring the opening line again here for us. The promo code is BVB20 for 20% off at Huel. The website is huel.com/BVB20 for new customers. Only if you are somebody with a cell phone, with a smartphone, and you can take a QR code shot, open it up. There's your code on the screen that you guys can go and jump in with. Very easy, limited time offer. They've got the high protein starter kit that is going to give you 20% off if you use the code BVB20, but also it'll take you right to the website on the QR code for Huel. This is a product that I do personally use. I'm not endorsing it, but I use it. And this is a starter kit for somebody who is, it's New Year's resolution time, right? It's up for us to start getting healthy again and trying to be more cognizant of taking care of ourselves. If you're getting up there in age, protein is a really important part of your diet. And this is a product that's going to give you 35 grams or more of protein. The powder will give you 40 grams of protein. The pre-made, ready-to-drink shakes, that's got 35 grams of protein. It is gluten-free. It is vegan. There are no artificial sweeteners, colors, or flavors, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, and you can not just get it by using a website. You also can go and get it at Target. They're in Target nationwide. 20% off with the code BVB20. New customers only. Our thanks to Huel for sponsoring us here with BVB. Okay, let's talk about John Harbaugh, because the news obviously was pretty seismic when it came down yesterday that the Ravens have fired the coach that took them to the 2012 championship of the NFL, had coached them for 18 seasons, and the Ravens during the Harbaugh era, they were third in wins. They were second in point differential. They were first in defensive EPA. They were ninth in offensive EPA. They did everything right. They won. They won consistently. They were a model franchise in the NFL, but they did not win as much as some thought that they should. And after 18 seasons of having one voice and one person, that is it's hard to put that into context about how long 18 years is in the NFL. Most coaches get 2, 3, 4 years, right? Heck, if you're Pete Carroll, you got 1 with the Raiders. You can be one and done. Gerard Mayo with the Patriots. Like, you can be one and done pretty easily. Most often you get 2. Sometimes you'll get 3. Jonathan Gannon got 3 in Arizona. But if you don't win, you're gone. And yet the Ravens ran with Harbaugh for 18 seasons. So at some point it does end, right? At some point you need to go in a different direction, but the Ravens like stability. They're kind of a mimicking franchise of the Steelers, who equally do not like to make changes with the head coach position. It is crazy to think that Tyler Loop's kick, if he makes that kick, if he hits that field goal and the Ravens win, John Harbaugh is probably still the coach. And Mike Tomlin, we could be having this conversation about Pittsburgh, about Mike Tomlin being let go by the Pittsburgh Steelers. In what direction does Pittsburgh go after missing the playoffs? Mike Tomlin could still be fired if the Monday night game goes badly for Pittsburgh. If the Texans go in there and just mop the field with the Steelers, there's a chance that we're sitting here on Tuesday of next week having the same conversation about Mike Tomlin and whether Mike Tomlin deserved to be fired by the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you are a Raven fan, and I know we have Raven fans who are in the chat, I think there's sort of like a bittersweet moment here, because at some point, you know that you had one of the best coaches in the history of the NFL. I mean, John Harbaugh was a tremendous coach for Baltimore. He wins a championship, but should he have won more? And I think that's the question that a lot of people are having about his career, saying, you had Lamar Jackson. He won 2 MVPs. You had a dominant defense every year. Basically, we assumed the Ravens were going to be dominant on the defensive side of the football, and that they had to fix the offense for them to win. And unfortunately for Harbaugh, and it's the same conversation with Josh Allen, you were in the Patrick Mahomes era. Like, if you weren't in the Mahomes era, you probably have more than 1 championship, and Lamar Jackson's got a ring. But Lamar Jackson doesn't have a ring, and Josh Allen doesn't have a ring because they went up against Patrick Mahomes. It's a similar thing that happened to other quarterbacks. Heck, Phillip Rivers, for instance, when you're playing in the Brady, Peyton Manning era, you could be a phenomenal quarterback. You could be this, Hall of Fame caliber, maybe not Hall of Famer, but caliber quarterback. And you're just unfortunately going to have to go up against an all-time great, one of the GOATs, one of the best at the position. And oftentimes a great quarterback has a great coach. And so Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes dominated during the John Harbaugh era. John Harbaugh's one championship with the Ravens came before Reid and Mahomes were with the Chiefs. So if you are looking at this from a Ravens perspective, there's a window. You know that Mahomes is not going to be Brady. I still do believe this, that Patrick Mahomes has other things in his life but football, and he's not going to play when he's 40. Andy Reid is 68, 69 years of age. Andy Reid is going to coach for what, 2-3 more years, and then that's it in KC? We heard yesterday from Travis Kelce that he still loves playing the game and that if his body lets him, he probably does go back next year. So he's probably leaning towards playing, which I am really surprised to hear that, but maybe things change. I mean, I went to where him and Taylor are going to be married in Rhode Island, the Breakers Mansion. I went there when I was back east for over New Year's. And we stayed in Newport. Gorgeous town, really fun town. If you're ever looking for a really cool, like winter, Christmassy type of thing, if you live in the New England area, Newport, Rhode Island's awesome because it's quiet. In the summertime, it's a complete zoo. It's gorgeous in the summertime too, but it's a zoo. At Christmas time, it was awesome. Great meals, great people, great fun. And the Breakers Mansion is ridiculous. Like where they're going to get married, I don't know, but it is one of those places that when you go to it, you always will talk about it going like, can you believe it looked like this? That's America. Looks like it's something that was made in Europe. So you've got Travis getting married on June 13th in Newport, Rhode Island. He's going to go in honeymoon. I mean, we saw it before where he had the Taylor Swift Eras Tour 15 that he put on, right? And so then like last off season, I'm focused. I am ready to go. He had a good year. He didn't have a bad year, but he's up there in age. Like he's, Father Time is winning. And so how long do you want him on your roster if you're the Chiefs? He's the greatest tight end, one of in the history of the game, right? There's Gronk. There's, 4 or 5 guys you can list on the top tight ends of all time. Travis Kelce is there. He's on that list. So there's a window here for the Ravens, knowing that the Bills don't look like the Bills, okay? Josh Allen is still Josh Allen, but they got big issues with that team and that roster. Sean McDermott, 1 year, maybe, left, and then he probably is in the same boat as Harbaugh, and they move off of him. You have the Patriots and the Broncos as the 1 and 2 seeds. The Broncos are in your division for the Chiefs. You're looking at the Broncos and the Chargers going, oh my goodness. If you're the Ravens, you see an aging Steeler team that does not have the quarterback for the future, a Browns team that just fired Kevin Stefanski and is starting over. There's a window. If you get the right coach, there's a window here for the Ravens to be potentially in the Super Bowl next year. So I understand why they made the move. I do. I get it. And you have like the obligatory, thank you post from John Harbaugh. I can't believe I'm so appreciative and gratitude. And then the owner, Steve Biscotti, comes out with the same long-winded thank you to Harbaugh about his integrity and what he has done and what he meant to the community and all the blah, 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 whatever niceties that are being said on both sides. But behind the scenes, we're hearing that Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh hated each other. That Lamar Jackson was allowed to do whatever the hell he wanted to do. Lamar, wasn't committed to his craft the way he was supposed to be committed to his craft. And people were blaming the coaching staff for leaking that out, trying to save their necks, while other people who have been around the Ravens for a long time have said, this is nothing new. This is not new behavior for Lamar Jackson. That Lamar Jackson has been this way his whole career. When he's winning, 2 MVPs, he's doing the same thing. You guys are just now telling on him because you're losing. And you feel like the owner is going to make a move and fire the whole staff. And thus, you're making it out to be a Lamar Jackson problem versus a coaching problem. And so Lamar should go. Well, clearly, that's not what ownership is going to do or has done. They are siding with the quarterback. I don't always agree with this. When it came to the Patriots divorce, I was good with keeping Belichick. In hindsight, that was the wrong move. I was wrong for wanting to keep Belichick and letting Brady walk to Tampa. I mean, Brady should have retired a Patriot. Do they win another Super Bowl? I don't know. Brady walked into the perfect situation in 2020 with Tampa. He walked into a ready-made team, bringing Gronkowski, great dominant defense, great wide receivers in Mike Evans. Like, everything was perfect for Brady to go down to Tampa and to win the Super Bowl. The Patriots roster was a mess. Bill Belichick had really been asleep at the wheel in a lot of ways. The wide receiver core was a joke. The offensive line was a mess. The defense just wasn't up to snuff by typical Patriot or Belichick standards. It was time to make a move. What was funny is that while Belichick would always take out a player 1 year too early, Robert Kraft waited probably 2 or 3 years too late before he removed Bill Belichick. And frankly, if you are Steve Biscotti and you're watching what happened in New England, you probably say, well, the Patriots should have sided with Brady and fired Belichick. I'm going to side with Lamar Jackson and I'm going to fire John Harbaugh, which is what happened. Who gets the job? Because the Ravens now being open changes so much. There were 6, now there's 7 jobs open, the Ravens being one of them. So there were 6 potential landing spots for John Harbaugh. Yet the Dolphins called, according to reports. The Dolphins called and inquired about Harbaugh coaching in Miami. Mike McDaniel is still the head coach in Miami. So how did that leak? I want to know how that leaked, because that's crazy. But Harbaugh is going to get a job as quickly as he wants a job. The question is just going to be who and where. The Giants have emerged as a very likely landing spot for John Harbaugh. I think if you're the Browns, you have to pick the phone up and make a call. He's in the division. Maybe he's pissed off and wants to go up against Baltimore. You know, the Ravens used to be the Browns, so maybe he goes to coach in Cleveland if he wants to go there. Maybe he calls or takes a call from the Raiders. If I'm the Raiders, that is an all-in moment for me. I am going to push every chip I got to push to go get John Harbaugh. However, how much money I got to spend, whatever control he wants. He has the first pick in the draft. He can draft his quarterback. He can build the team however way he wants. I would offer anything and everything if I'm the Raiders for John Harbaugh. Does he want to come west? His brother's in LA, so maybe he comes west and coaches with the Raiders, but he'd be going up against his brother in the same division. Maybe he doesn't want that. I can't wait to see where John Harbaugh goes, but equally, I cannot wait to see what the Ravens do, because I don't know. If I'm the Ravens, I better have an idea as to who I am hiring, because according to reports, one of the final straws was that the ownership group, Biscotti, wanted to fire Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, and John Harbaugh said, no, we're not firing Todd Monken. And that's where the ownership said, fine, we're firing everybody. We're starting over again because this isn't working. I watched the Ravens a lot this year. The offense wasn't the problem. The defense was the problem with the Ravens. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop anything. They didn't have a real pass rush. That was not a typical Ravens team defensively. Forget the offense. So I think that's a weird thing for ownership to be so adamant about Todd Monken being gone, and then Harbaugh also defending his guy, saying, no, that's not happening. So you wonder, is that a package deal? If John Harbaugh is hired, is Todd Monken going with him to be the OC? I don't think a team or fan bases would be angry about that. He's proven that he can do a good job and has, orchestrated a good offense in Baltimore. This has upset the apple cart in my mind from the hierarchy and how this all gets filled, knowing that you have a championship caliber, championship winning coach in John Harbaugh now being available, and just where does he want to go? And I don't think the other jobs get filled until John Harbaugh decides either he doesn't want your job or he picks somebody else. So, like, if you're told, like, if the Cardinals get told point blank, John Harbaugh is not coaching the Cardinals, okay, then maybe you go and interview a bunch of other guys and you go hire somebody else. But unless you are told point blank by John Harbaugh that he does not want your job, I don't know how you hire somebody with him still available out on the market. I just think it's too big of an opportunity. It's too big of a chance to get a competent coach when there are so many incompetent coaches in the NFL who get jobs and fall flat on their face. Aaron Glenn. So, I mean, to me, he's that first domino. And so if you're the Giants, you need to go ahead and go full bore to go see if you can get Harbaugh. Harbaugh in New York is a huge deal. Like, that's a really big hire if the Giants are able to get him. Given that roster, given the defensive players on that Giants roster, if the Giants can go and get John Harbaugh, game changer in New York. The other job, I think the Raiders are a highly attractive position because of the control you could have and the level of expectation you find in this market, which is pretty low. You have the first pick in the draft. Do you want Mendoza? Do you not want Mendoza? Do you want somebody else? Do you want Dante Moore? Or do you want a defensive player? Do you want to trade out of the pick? Like, there's just a lot of flexibility with the Raiders if you want to take over the job. But again, do you want to go to the West where your brother is? You might not. Fascinating stuff in the NFL. Really interesting movement. Harbaugh to Tampa? You have a coach. Like, what? You have a coach still. So I don't know. I think it's going to be, I would agree with CBW. The Giants have to get Harbaugh. They want him. Does he want them is the question. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how these teams approach who's available and who's going to wind up getting the jobs. Yeah, the Bengals need to call. The Bengals kept their coach, Anthony. I don't know why, but the Bengals kept their coach. If Mike Tomlin gets fired as well, that would be the only other seismic move in this coaching cycle that could really impact where these teams are going to go. Because I think teams would hire Mike Tomlin tomorrow. Like the Raiders, I think, would hire Mike Tomlin tomorrow. If he were available, I think he gets scoffed up. So I guess we got to wait till next Monday. Maybe Harbaugh waits until next Monday, but you could have potentially Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin both on the market as being available for teams that need head coaches and for teams that are trying to change the culture, right? The Giants are trying to change the culture. The Raiders are trying to change the culture. The Cardinals, same thing, trying to change the culture. And we could have more. We're only a couple of days after the year's over. We had Black Monday, but now we're sitting here on a Wednesday. We didn't think there was going to be a Black Tuesday with John Harbaugh being made available this quickly. And it's a firing. Like, let's be completely clear what this was. The Ravens fired him. Like, there wasn't like a mutual separation here. He got fired. Straight up. He got fired. So now I'm curious. Cleveland would be fascinating. If John Harbaugh would go to Cleveland, it would be wild if he were to do that. The Titans' job is better than people think. I like the Titans' job. I do. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. We're having Cam Ward. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. But I think the Titans are going to be left with whatever the leftovers are for this coaching cycle. Like, whoever's left over and whoever, coordinator that might be available is probably going to wind up going to Nashville to coach for the Titans. I like that job. I think that job is one you can win at. I don't think Harbaugh's going there. If I'm handicapping it, I think it's the Giants at number one for Harbaugh. And then I think everything else goes down from there. Maybe the Raiders are the second option. Maybe the Browns, somewhere in that range. But the most logical fit would be to him go up 95 and go coach the Giants. He would be leaving the AFC as well. So he'd be getting away from Mahomes, getting away from May, getting away from, the Allen and company and Lamar for that matter. you're getting away from that. Does Garrett retire for the Browns? He could. Absolutely. That's potential. But you know what's crazy? Jason Garrett is being interviewed for jobs. The former Cowboy coach and the guy on NBC is getting interviews. Huh? The coaching pool, Mike McCarthy might get interviewed. Like, the coaching pool is pretty shallow. Like, there's not a lot of coaches. There's just not a lot of really quality. And that's why the Harbaugh news, I think, is so significant, that because, guys, there are some really crazy coaches, guys, retreads. They're going to get interviews for head coaching positions in this cycle that you would be like, wait, that guy? Yeah, that guy. Let's talk about what happened last night. All right, not much to get into from what happened last night, except that there was a historic beatdown in the NHL that, well, 9-0 is 9-0. I can't actually believe that this happened, but it did. The Islanders are a good hockey team, but they're not good enough to be beating a team 9-0, which is what happened last night. The Devils are getting trounced nearly every time they go out right now. They're getting destroyed. And when you lose a game 9-0, it sets up for everyone in New Jersey to get fired. Like, just everyone. The fans are furious. The players are embarrassed. The coaching staff has no answer. 9-0 last night. It's, there are rec league, beer league, hockey games that don't end 9-0. That is hard to do, to lose a game 9-0. And it's what happened last night, where I think if you're a Devil fan this morning, you're going, I don't know what to do. It's the worst loss in franchise history. We've never lost a game 9-0 before. What do we do? How do we go? So that is your WTF game of the night, was last night, with the Devils losing 9-0 to the Islanders. Like, to the Islanders losing 9-0. Oh boy, that is, yikes. That is not good. Let's make some bets here for us. Big games this week. All right, it's time for Just the Picks, being brought to you by Betting Pros' Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. You guys can go download the Betting Pros app or log on to bettingpros.com/props to check out the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Projections for NBA games, for every NBA game for props, but also for the games coming up this weekend in the NFL. If you like prop betting, you need to check out the Betting Pros Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Tomorrow night, we got the college football semifinals. Game 1 of them tomorrow. Fiesta Bowl, game 2 of them happening on Friday with the Peach Bowl. Let's start with the Fiesta Bowl for Miami and Ole Miss. The total is up to 52.5. This game is really interesting because of the fact that Ole Miss is playing for something bigger than themselves. And what I mean by that is, you have Lane Kiffin, who has left to go to LSU. There are so many coaches on this Ole Miss staff who have already accepted jobs at LSU, and they are actively recruiting kids to go with them to LSU. Yet you're seeing the quarterback and other players for Ole Miss deciding, no, we're staying. We're going to be here because we want to be part of Ole Miss. The Lane Kiffin leaving, the departure, divorce, whatever you want to call it, has apparently cauterized this entire locker room, and they are playing inspired football. They are playing team football, and I did not think that they were going to beat Georgia. I'll be completely frank. I was very surprised that they were able to get past Georgia, and now they have a chance to go up against a Miami team that has faced 2 really bad offenses. Like, let's be frank here. Texas A&M and Marcel Reed was awful in that game. If they had a competent quarterback, I really do believe A&M wins that game, and they beat Miami. Ohio State, in the biggest games of the year, Ohio State was bad on offense. Like, the number of points scored in the most important games of the year for Ohio State, their offense just did not get it done. And I'm not trying to take away anything from Mario Cristobal's team and what has happened from a offensive and defensive line perspective, where Miami manhandled both opponents. Miami was more physical at the point of attack against both Texas A&M and Ohio State. I don't think that's going to help them against Ole Miss. The problem I think that they're going to have is the speed and the efficiency of this offense for Ole Miss and the number of skill players that they have and how quickly the football can come out when we're watching Ole Miss really click. And Georgia, look, you could argue about the NFL caliber talented players on Miami versus Georgia, but I think to a person, most people are going to say that the Georgia defense, more talented, more studs, more five-star, more NFL prospects than Miami's defense. And Miami does have a very good defense. Again, not trying to take anything away from Miami, except I look at that Ole Miss offense and I look at what they have done this year. Both these teams were 9-5 against the spread. Both these teams have won 3 games in a row. Ole Miss won by 5-31 in their playoff games. Miami won by 10-7 in their playoff games, but in very different fashion, the way these games were won. Miami won 10-3 and 24-14, but really it was 17-14. Like that last touchdown, really like just a patter there. Really, it was 17-14. For Ole Miss, 39-34, 41-10. I mean, they've scored 80 points in the playoffs. And that, I think, is going to be the difference here. I think Miami is going to score more points on Ole Miss than some people think. I actually do like Miami's skill players to get free finally, and the speed of the wide receivers. I do think Miami is going to score, but I like Ole Miss catching 3.5, and I like the over. I got it at 51.5. I don't mind it at 52, but I like Ole Miss here. I like what they're playing for, and you guys are going to roll your eyes and say, this is typical Matt SEC bias, blah, blah, blah. Fine. Maybe it is. Okay. I'm not going to fight you on that and say you're dead wrong, but I like the offense. I like Ole Miss. I like the skill players. I like the pace in which Ole Miss plays at to tire out Miami. And I also really like the fact that this is being played in a dome on a fast track, West Coast, both teams traveling. This is not going to be, I mean, Miami fans are going to be there. Don't get me wrong, but Ole Miss, I think this team has played so well this season. They've won 7 games in a row. Miami has won 6 games in a row, but speed-wise, I just think when this is the run, I like Ole Miss plus the points, okay? I think Ole Miss has a really good chance of winning. Miami wins. They win by 3, so I like the hook there, but I think the game is going to be high scoring. We're going over 51.5. Totals at 52. You can probably come around and do this, but I'm not hating on the ACC. Okay. I said earlier this week, I think Miami's got a shot to win the national championship. So I don't think I'm hating on Miami or the ACC, but it is maybe my bias. And yes, Rincon, I agree. I agree. Over, you're with me. Money line Ole Miss. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen in this game. I think it's very, and here in CBW, you're right. But Charlie Weiss Jr. calling the plays is why this offense has been so good in the playoffs. I mean, everyone's like Lane Kiffin. Charlie Weiss Jr. has done an incredible job, an absolutely incredible job in the playoffs. 80 points scored here in the playoffs. Give me the points. Ole Miss plus 3.5, and I'm going to play the over. The Peach Bowl on Friday. Indiana laying 3.5 against Oregon. The total is 47.5. It's ticked up from 46.5 at open. This game is wild. Both teams 9-5 ATS. Indiana has won and covered 3 straight games. Indiana has not lost yet this year. Nobody has beaten Indiana. They beat Alabama by 35 points. Nobody does that to Alabama. Kirk Cignetti and Indiana did. They beat Ohio State by 3 in the Big Ten title game. They were 3.5-point dogs. They won it outright. Oregon beat Texas Tech by 23 points. They destroyed Texas Tech Stunning, to be quite honest. Beating James Madison and hanging 50-plus points on JMU, that was expected. That's what Oregon was supposed to do to JMU. The Texas Tech game in Dallas, that was surprising. But this game being played in Atlanta, you've got a Midwest team and a West Coast team coming over. The last person out of Bloomington shut the lights off because no one's going to be there. The whole entire town, everyone, goodbye. They are all going to Georgia. It is a drive. It is far, but it's very doable for Hoosier fans to just clear on out and head down to watch their team play. Mark Cuban this morning made the announcement that he has written a gigantic check to Indiana to help fund their NIL, to keep Kirk Cignetti right where he is, and to keep Indiana football dominant in the transfer portal NIL market. Not bad to have billionaires, alumni to cut checks. That's what college football is today. However, I like Oregon plus the points here. I like Oregon's chances because I just think when you have a team facing another team for a second time, I think Dan Lanning gets so much from the first matchup. He gets to see on film what he did wrong, and I like the corrections. The whole idea of it's hard to beat the same team twice, I'm not going by that. I'm not subscribing to that. But I do think this is a 3-point game, and I like the hook here for Oregon. I think the Ducks are going to be able to keep this game really close, and frankly, everything has gone right for Indiana. Like, this has been a magical season for Indiana. Again, I'm not saying that they are going to lose this game, but I think Oregon's going to have a really good shot because of that defense and because of the way that they have played. The matchup stats-wise is pretty wild. I mean, we're talking about a defense for Oregon that gives up 15 points per game, a defense for Indiana, which gives up 11 points per game. 4.5 yards per play is 11th best in the country for Indiana. 4.2 yards per play for Oregon. That's 5th best in the country. Like, this is strength on strength in a lot of ways. And yet the pros are betting this game over, which is somewhat telling to me about what they're expecting from this track in Atlanta, which is a fast track. And that these kids have played a lot of football and that these teams know each other. Oregon scores 36 points per game. That's 12th best in the country. Indiana scores 39 points per game. That's 4th best in the country. The coaching staff matchup is fascinating. The running game for Indiana is the key. If you can stop the run, if you're Oregon and you can stop the run and make Indiana one-dimensional, I think that's the key, just stopping the Hoosier offense. They run the ball at a 5.2 yards per clip. That's 18th best in the country. Oregon's rush defense, 3.4 yards per rush given up. That's 18th best in the country. That's the game to me. If Indiana can't run, Oregon can win the game outright. Dante Moore versus Mendoza. This is maybe who goes 1 overall. If Moore wins this game, he very well might be the number 1 pick in the draft. He may be coming out. If he can beat Mendoza, he can do it. Don't worry, Addison. I'm keeping with my deal here. Don't you worry. My pick is Oregon plus 3.5. I'm not going to switch up that dramatically on you guys. It's not that I don't believe in Indiana. Okay. I didn't touch the Alabama game because of that reason. Because I was like, you know what? I'm not touching this game with a 10-foot pole because I'm not sure what Bama's going to be able to do against Indiana. And they got their asses handed to them in embarrassing fashion. Like, just my Bama friends were so upset. They were quiet. Like, they didn't even talk. They're just like, what do we say to that? Like, outclassed in every fashion, in every aspect. There's nothing to get mad about. It's just one team was way better than ours. And this is interesting, Roger. I've seen this before. You Indiana folks just think Dante Moore is not very good. Okay. I mean, I understand it. I get it. You're going to talk about this, but I'm with Ish. Give me the Ducks. I like the Ducks here on this, and I think it's going to be fun to see what ends up happening in this game. I I'm more confident in the Ole Miss bet than I am this bet. I'll be honest. I like the over a lot in the Ole Miss game. I like Ole Miss to go ahead and take care of business against Miami. I feel like that's a matchup that Ole Miss should be able to win. And Ole Miss, I think, has the horses to contend with the defense for Miami. I don't like Carson Beck. I haven't liked Carson Beck for a very long time. I faded Miami for a while because of Carson Beck. They were very lucky to beat A&M because the quarterback for A&M was worse than the quarterback for Miami. Like, that's why that game went down. Beck has done nothing in the playoffs. So to me, I'll take the offense for Ole Miss over the offense for Miami. So I'm more confident in that bet. This is hard. I'm going to be honest. This is really, really hard. This is a tough matchup. I'm taking the points because of the hook. I'll be frank. I think Indiana could win the game by 3, but I don't know. I like Dante Moore a lot. I do. I like him a lot. Yeah, you're actually right. I mean, Ty Simpson got beat up so bad he went pro. That's true. Yeah, that's true on this. So, Joel, I've seen people say that their models have Indiana -2, not 3.5. I have seen that. I'm not following that, but I like the hook. I like 3. I like the 3. I like 3.5, not 3. I like Oregon plus 3.5 coming up here for the game on Friday for the Peach Bowl. Okay, 2 games tonight. Let's talk about Nova and Creighton. I'm going under. I want to see what that number currently is at, because I was surprised to see it as high as 141.5 last night. And my thought was that the underplay was going to come in. The over has come in. How about that? You guys can get 143 on this. Surprising. So here's the thing with Creighton playing at the Finn, which is the on-campus hall that Nova plays in. When the Jays have played at Xfinity Center, they're 4-2. When they played at the Finn, they're 0-6. They've never won since the Jays have entered into the Big East. They've never beaten Villanova on campus. They also shoot the ball not nearly as well when they play at the Finn. Why? Because it's a barn. It's a tiny gym. It looks like a rec center gym because it is. I mean, this is where you see like the pickup games get played, and you see, you know, for those of you who went to a smaller school, you know what I'm talking about when there is a basketball court where that's used for like everything. It's the multi-purpose room. That's what the Finn is on campus for Villanova. It's a really hard place to play because they're on top of you. Like, it's Cameron Indoor type size. Like, they're on you and they're yelling at you constantly. The Jays are 6-1 to the under this year on the road. They lost a game to Seton Hall where the game went under last game by 30 plus points. Lost the game 53-52, something in that range. I bet under 141.5. You guys can get under 143 here in this game. The number was 6.5 last night. It's down to 5. Don't understand that at all. KenPom has this as an 8-point win for Villanova. This is Nova in the under to me. Like, I know my college basketball betting hasn't been great, but I'm really surprised at this. Like, this surprised me on this. I don't know. Yes, we have seen this story before, Addison. We have. And we're on the book side. Okay? We're on the book side. The book's going to need the under. I like the under. I like the under for Creighton and Nova. I like Nova to win the game. I tend to lean towards Nova to cover. It's a bigger number than I would like. Nova is 3-0 in the Big East. The Jays are 3-1 in the Big East. But these are the road trips that traditionally have been, problematic for the Creighton Blue Jays. And I've been watching Creighton Blue Jay basketball since 2004. For 22 years now, I've been watching, and this roster doesn't make any sense to me. This Blue Jay roster is not Blue Jay basketball. I don't understand it. They had one game go over on the road. It was against Xavier, and they scored 98 points because they couldn't miss. They hit every single shot they took, basically. It was a historic night shooting for the Jays. But that was the only time. It's the only time we've seen them shoot well. The Jays have had a calling card of being a rebounding defensive matchup team that shoots threes. That is not what they are this year. In fact, I'm not sure what they are this year. And in the NIL world, this was always the fear. And this is why Greg McDermott has talked about retirement very soon from the Jays, or being there almost 20 years, because this doesn't work. For college coaches that want to recruit a kid as a junior in high school, develop a relationship with him, watch him develop, bring him on campus, have him redshirt his freshman year, and then play sophomore, junior, senior year, that doesn't work anymore in college basketball. And so what you get is two Iowa cast-offs that weren't able to play in the Big Ten, that then get paid big money to come from the Big Ten to go play in the Big East, because the Jays are trying to replace two of the best players in school history in Ryan Kalkbrenner, who is destructive in the NBA right now, who's playing his ass off for Charlotte, and Stephen Ashworth, who was an unbelievable shooter and leader for that team. But that's the last time we're going to see stuff like that. Ryan Kalkbrenner stayed 5 years in Omaha. Like, that stuff's not going to happen anymore. So basketball programs like Creighton and Nova, for that matter, too, they're going to struggle in this new world. Look at the top 10. Look at the teams right now that are ranked. Like, this is a changing of the guard, not just in college football, but in college basketball as well. So under 141.5 tonight. The other game, Alabama and Vandy. I played over 177.5 last night. This number, I mean, to Addison's point, I love it when the number goes against me, because I think we're on the book side and it's a good place to be. This is scaring the hell out of me. We're at 181 now. This number has flown, like just completely taken off for Alabama and Vanderbilt. KenPom had this as a 180, I think it was 182 that KenPom had this. And so I think people came in and recognized that the number opened up too low. And so they've been hammering the over. I can't believe how high this has gotten and where it might close. Alabama and Vanderbilt traditionally play up-tempo basketball games. This year, the numbers are quite stark. We're talking about pace, real pace here. It's a 92-85 win for Vanderbilt tonight. The number was 4. That number now is what? Let's see. It's now 3.5. So money's coming in on Bama, and we're at 181.5. BetMGM has now gone to 181.5. Hard Rock Bets at 181.5. There are some 180.5 still in the market. Circa's at 181 for this game tonight. Again, I bet over 177.5 last night. For the season, Alabama is 7-6 to the under. Vanderbilt is 8-6 to the over. Vandy is 4-3 to the over at home. Alabama is 3-3 on the year on the road. Last game went under for Bama up against Kentucky at home. 89-74 the win, went under by 11 points. For Vanderbilt against South Carolina on the road, it was 154.5. And the game went under by 0.5 point, 83-71 win. In their last 2 home games, they both went over against New Haven and Wake Forest for Vandy. But against SMU, it was 165.5. The game went under by 8.5 points. Pace of play is the story here. Average possession length for Vanderbilt is 38th in the country. Average possession length on the year for Alabama is 9th in the country. Dictating tempo. We're going up tempo. We're going back and forth. Efficiency wise, Alabama has the number 2 offensive efficient offense, and Vanderbilt has the number 4 adjusted efficient offense in the country, according to KenPom. Defensively, not bad. Vanderbilt's 15th on adjusted efficiency defensively. It's pretty good. Alabama is 69th, but it comes down to more the offense. Effective field goal percentage for Vanderbilt, 7th. Alabama, 37th. Alabama 3-point shooting, 76th. Vanderbilt, 26th. 2-point shooting, Alabama 28th. Vanderbilt, 4th. Like, these offenses can put the ball in the bucket. We're going to go tempo, up and down. I'm going over 177.5. Team totals for Bama, 88.5. Vandy, 92.5. Well, I'll tell you what, if Vandy goes over their team total, we're going over for the game. So that's going over for the game if that's going to happen. But we're going to go ahead and go over Vanderbilt and Bama. So 2 games tonight, Creighton and Vandy Creighton and Nova under. Alabama and Vanderbilt, we're going to go over 177.5, but that number's gone. It's now 181 or 181.5, which is crazy for tonight's game. So 2 college basketball games tonight. You guys can take a look at it if you would like. All right. Interesting story here in Vegas. This popped yesterday, and it's kind of, I don't want to call it funny, but it's kind of funny. So hold on. Where is that? There it is. The A's applied for the trademark, the Las Vegas A's and the Las Vegas Athletics and the Vegas Athletics. And the trademark, the U.S. trademark company or government agency denied the request. Denied the request. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office said no. Las Vegas A's and Vegas A's not allowed. Too generic is what they came back with, which is a little weird, to be quite honest. So if the A's, the Athletics, is too generic and it could be confused with other things going on in Las Vegas, why have the Philadelphia Athletics and the Oakland Athletics and the Kansas City Athletics, why have those all been allowed? If you remember, the trademark office denied Utah's name change from the Phoenix Coyotes to the Utah Yeti. That was not allowed because the Yeti coolers, there was a conflict there, so they changed their name to the Mammoth. This is a blessing in disguise. If I'm the A's, I'm taking this and saying, this is a blessing in disguise for us to go and do this. For us not to be called the Las Vegas A's or the Las Vegas Athletics. This is the universe telling you, do not come to Vegas with an old team name, with the baggage and the history and the losing that comes with it. The Vegas Aces were a former team, but came to Vegas, changed the name, and they've won 3 championships in 4 years. They are the dynasty, the first real dynasty, maybe not the first one, but the latest dynasty in the WNBA because they changed their name, right? They were bought by Bill Foley. They got relocated to the desert here in Vegas, changed the name to Vegas Aces, and away they go. They should 100% be rebranding this franchise. I don't care what the family, I don't care what the nickname, I don't care about the history and all the crap that's going with it. Goodbye. Vegas is notorious for taking history and wiping it away and starting fresh, right? It's what we do, okay? You come out to the desert, you have no baggage, you have no history, nobody cares what you did back at home. You're now living here in Vegas. Take it as a blessing and rebrand this baseball team something else. Please rebrand it something else because you don't need to do it. The Vegas A's are dead on arrival. Nobody wants it. Everyone wants an expansion team. If you can't get an expansion team, come up with a new team name. And the government coming in and saying, hey, you can't trademark athletics. It's too generic to do that. So now find something else to call it. You can still use the name, by the way. They could still technically use the name. They just can't sue anybody for, grabbing the logo. I really, really hope that they do not use the name A's. The Las Vegas Spheres. Anything would be better. They used to, Eric, the Blackjacks were a hockey team here. So there's already a trademark for that. I looked into that. But the Blackjacks, you just calling them the BJs, people are going to have a tough time with that. That's going to be tough, It's going to be tough. But rebrand, please, for the love of everything, rebrand. Take this as a sign from the universe. Nobody wants the Athletics anymore. No one wants the Vegas Athletics here. It's a bad idea. News of the industry. All right, news of the industry. I want to do this over the last 5 minutes that we've got here with our friends at Sports Grid, because everyone needs to hear this and see this, because this has been thrown at me, I don't know how many times in the last couple of days, and people have been asking me my opinion of this over and over again, and it comes from a rant by Dave Ramsey, who is the financial syndicated media writer, podcaster, radio host, whatever you want to call Dave Ramsey. I've met Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is a dinosaur. He is a throwback to what used to be in radio, which is, if you are really old school, you know the name Paul Harvey. He is in that ilk of guys who have been syndicated on hundreds of radio stations around the country and has done financial reporting and financial advice on the radio across the world, across the country, in major markets, New York to LA to Houston to Chicago. Ryan Glass-Steagall is a guy who works in the media world, really cool guy. I've gotten to know him a bit on social media, but he writes, the backlash to online sports books is beginning. Part of it is their own fault for how aggressively they've marketed slash it's penny wise, it's pound foolish to severely limit winners. I would agree. The consistent winners should be helpful to point to in response to clips like this, which are growing. He's talking about the clip in which Dave Ramsey calls online sports betting the destructive force for a generation of young men in America. This is echoing the comments made by others who have gone, and Scott Galloway being one of the more famous, guy who's been on with Oprah and guy's got millions of followers, who I've talked about on this show before, about how sports betting to young men is so corrosive and so destructive. And I'm not going to argue that sports gambling is having a major impact on a variety of different walks of life, namely the NFL, who just had their best regular season average viewership since 1989. We're not going with the Taylor Swift theme here or back to Stranger Things, but anytime you're talking about 1989 and TV viewership, given the amount of competition that's out there, that's significant. That's a huge deal to the NFL. And I will give sports betting credit for it. I will give sports gambling credit for what the NFL is seeing from an audience standpoint, which is why the NFL was eventually pushed into supporting sports betting in America. So there's tons of young men. Some states, New Hampshire, you can be 18 years old and you can bet on sports. Do I like that? No, it should be 21. But let's look at this from a broader perspective. If we're going to talk about sports betting being destructive to a whole generation of young men, we have to talk about all vices. And what bothers me about the Scott Galloways and the Dave Ramseys of the world, and why the cherry picking of the information, why it bothers me, is because they don't talk about drinking. So a report came out that 10% of young men between the ages of 18 and 30 are at risk for a sports betting addiction. 10%. Okay. In the country overall, it's 3%. If you take the whole population, 3% of the population is at risk for a sports betting addiction. Men between 18 and 30, they are 10%. So 3 times more likely. Half of men 18 to 49 currently in America have at least one sportsbook account. I think you guys in the audience are probably laughing at that going, got way more than one. I'm one of them. But if you look at the numbers, in 2021, 9.8% of men between the ages of 18 and 25 admitted, and that to admit it, by the way, but they admitted to engaging in binge drinking. 27% of men in 2021, in the same study, 27% of men 18 to 30 had a substance abuse problem. A substance abuse problem. 27% of men. I'm not trying to do the whataboutisms here, but when we're talking about 10% of men between 18 and 30 being at risk, not having, but being at risk for a sports betting addiction, and we've got 27% of men who have an actual substance abuse problem. Why don't we hear that out of the destruction of a generation? Why don't we ever talk about the impact that alcohol makes on young men's lives every single day? Because for Americans, the CDC reported that 1 in 4 deaths for men between the ages of 20 and 34 are related to alcohol. So if you're dying between 20 and 34 years of age, if you die in this country, you have a 25% chance that alcohol is contributing to your death. Suicide, overdose, drunk driving, what have you. Alcohol is involved. And so we don't hear about that from the Scott Galloways and the Dave Ramseys. And we really should. Because if you point the finger at sports betting being the destruction of a generation, we've already destroyed multiple generations of young men with alcohol. Consistently destroying young men, not having them be in financial ruin, having them be in the ground. They're dead. And we don't hear that from these people. And that's my problem. The hypocrisy is my problem. We will continue this conversation in bonus time. If you care for it, if you're on Sports Grid on the replay, come over to our YouTube channel at Boston versus the Book and watch the rest for you guys live. Bonus time now. Look, financial ruin. To have people who are bankrupt by sports gambling. I'm not trying to excuse it. I'm not saying it's okay. But vices bring problems. Sports gambling is a vice. Cannabis is a vice. Nicotine, tobacco is a vice. Zyn, these nicotine patches, they're a vice. Okay. Alcohol is a vice. I'm not looking to run around and police vices. I'm not looking to run around and to say that we are destroying a whole generation of young men by legalizing sports gambling when sports gambling was being done anyway. Was it being done at this level? No, of course not, right? Because now it is advertised. And if you want to reel in the advertising, I'm not angry about it. But to Dave Ramsey's point when he's coming in there saying it's a sucker's bet, nobody will win. What do you win when you drink? Serious question. Did you know that alcohol is the only substance that we ingest that gives us no health benefit at all? Alcohol is poison. Cannabis, even THC, there are medical benefits to consuming and smoking marijuana. Fact. There is a medical benefit. You will receive some health benefit from smoking or eating THC. There is no health benefit associated with alcohol. None. It's a depressant. It hurts your overall mood. It causes mental health problems. It causes liver cirrhosis. It causes blood pressure problems. It causes a litany of issues when you ingest alcohol. So there are so many problems from alcohol. And I'm not mad about people who drink. People who drink, they get beer balls, right? They get more confident. They feel like they can socialize. They can talk to the pretty girl. Like they can do all the different things. I'm not saying alcohol is a negative. I drink. I have got 15 fucking bottles of whiskey sitting literally 10 feet from where I'm sitting. Okay. I drink whiskey all the time. I go and I can't drink beer anymore because of my stomach, but I drink hard cider all the time. Okay. I am not anti-alcohol by any stretch of the imagination. I love alcohol. Love it. My problem comes down to when we legalize, it was the same thing that happened with marijuana. We legalize marijuana and all of a sudden people think that because it's legal, we're now going to ruin young people because they can't make up their minds and we're creating these problems for young people, these options. I started gambling when I was 18 years old on sports. I placed my first sports bet when I was in college. I was a freshman in college. I was 18. I was placing it with a pretty shady guy, with a pretty shady bookie who I was working with. Okay. Did I wind up in financial ruin? No. Did I lose? Of course I lost. A Tuesday knock on the door sucked, but it happened and I survived it and I learned from it. Again, if we're wanting to limit advertising on sports betting, on sports gambling companies, I'm in. Let's go. Let's put more parameters on there. But let's not do the hyperbole bullshit. Let's not do the alarm, pearl clutching nonsense that's going on right now with these people in the financial world who think that sports gambling was just invented. We've been betting on athletic ventures since we were in Athens. Okay. We gambled on the first Olympics that were ever created. Every big boxing fight has had a line. Every big UFC card has a gigantic line. We bet because we like to put money down on one side or the other. It's fun. It's entertainment. We enjoy it. Do some people bet more than they should? Of course. Do some people get behind the wheel and drive 200 miles per hour and kill people? Yes. Yes. And that happens every damn day in this country. That happens every weekend in America. Destruction of young people. Not one generation, generations have been ruined by alcohol, and yet we don't talk about it at all. I don't watch Dave Ramsey's show, but I'm going to guess an alcohol company sponsors Dave Ramsey in some place in America. He's got alcohol ads running on his show. It's the hypocrisy that bothers me. It's the easy target to say that sports gambling is going to ruin young people when the numbers simply don't bear it out. The numbers are not there to back it up that there is some gigantic rush to ruin when it comes to young people. Because why? It's in their phone, that they've got it on them all the time. They can make wagers and they're making $10 and $20 bets. Again, do some people get addicted? Absolutely. Yes. Do some people have a problem with alcohol? Yes. Do some people have a problem with marijuana? Yes. Do some people have a problem with gambling in general, going to casinos? Yes. But I'm not interested in making that all illegal. I'm not interested in letting the 5% dictate to the 95%. Okay? Get the 5% help. Put parameters up to protect those people who have problems. Yes, get them the help that they need. But I'm not interested in stopping adults from doing adult things. I'm very liberal on this, and people don't like this opinion, but I think prostitution should be legalized. I think most hard drugs should be legalized, taxed, policed. The black market is created by the illegal world. By telling people you can't gamble, it creates the illegal market. When you tell people they can't do things, and so far, prohibition didn't fucking work. Didn't work for marijuana, didn't work for alcohol. Okay? People want to do it, and they're going to keep doing it. And so it's better just to go, all right, let them do it. It happens. Every weekend we get stories here in Vegas about some schmuck who came here from some town who wound up naked and robbed by a hooker here in Vegas. That's awful. That's absolutely horrible, but it happens all the time. Guy this past weekend lost a $75,000 Rolex. Is all pissed off because he says he was drugged on New Year's Eve and he woke up in a ditch, right? Everyone's like, we know what you were doing, dude. You picked up a girl on New Year's Eve and she robbed you. Is that right? Of course that's wrong. Of course that's not correct. That's awful. But if there was a legal path to finding in America to the oldest profession in the country, okay? If you found a way to have that happen safely and securely, the same way you can walk into a dispensary here in Vegas, same way you can walk into a liquor store here in Vegas, there's parameters in place. No one's drinking moonshine out of some dude's bathroom. We got rid of that, and we're better for it. No one is drinking or no one's smoking laced shit anymore, right? You're not smoking some dirt that's been mixed with fentanyl that was happening consistently when you were buying marijuana on the strip from some guy you don't know. You know it's clean. You know where it was grown. You know where it came from. There are standards. You know how much THC is in it. You know whether it's an upper or a downer. You know how much, if you're eating it and consuming it, you know the overall THC gram level. Is it 10 gram? You fuckers are biting 100 grams. I don't know if one snaps in the chat still, but that time in Chicago when you guys started talking to me about popping the stuff you guys were taking for the THC gummies, I was like, wait, what? Like, what are you guys doing? I just think this is what makes me very angry about the sports betting industry in the conversations from folks like Scott Galloway and Dave Ramsey when they come in. And I offered Dave, I wrote to him on Twitter. Yeah, probably he didn't see it, but I said, hey, you have an open invitation to come here and have a conversation about sports gambling and to defend this idea that it's going to take down a generation of young men, which I don't believe is happening. Okay. Again, the numbers are pretty clear. 10% of young men between 18 and 30 are at risk for a sports betting addiction. Half of men 18 to 49 in America report that they have at least one sportsbook account open currently. That's at risk. 3% of the population in general, but this is your core demographic. 18 to 30 is who all the sports gambling advertisement, they are all aimed at 18 to 30 year olds. They don't give a shit about me because I don't bet parlays. So they're out for that. But we don't hear the other side. We don't hear the alcohol numbers, right? This is people who admit this. If you're asked, hey, have you binge drinked in the last month? 18 and 25 year olds, 9.8% admitted. Same number, 10%, right? Potential for sports gambling addiction, potential for drinking problems, right? If you're binge drinking, you're supposedly on the path to a drinking problem. Now, I have binge drank a lot in my life. I do not have a drinking problem. Numbers are similar though. 10%, 10%. 27% of men in America, 18 to 30, have an actual substance abuse problem, not just alcohol, hard drugs. They've got problems. Pills, coke, heroin, right? Real problems. Oxy. 27% in that demographic. That's a big number of people. Alcohol kills young people at an astounding rate. At an astounding rate. As a father, it scares the shit out of me to see these numbers. And I just don't appreciate when we start getting into the sports gambling conversation. I believe it is so alarmist and it's such an easy, low-hanging fruit target because there are people who are in Dave Ramsey's audience who are now petrified of little Johnny getting on DraftKings and getting addicted to sports gambling. Should we watch our kids? Absolutely. Should we educate our kids? Absolutely. About everything. But this generation of financial ruin that is happening, that's going to be all the victim of sports gambling, is bullshit. I'm sorry. It's bullshit. It's not true. Okay. It's not going to happen. There's going to be kids who are going to be addicted. Absolutely. There's going to be horror stories. Absolutely. We need to police it. We need to be more stringent with the advertising. We need to reel the industry in 100%. Prediction markets are a complete Wild West shit show. Yes. Get in front of that, Congress. Get in front of that, politicians. Fix that. Yes, I am all in on having parameters. But this idea that a generation of young men are being let off a cliff because we've legalized sports gambling, they were doing it anyway. I was doing it anyway. In 1995, I was doing it. It's 2026. Just because it's legal doesn't mean that it's going to be that much more detrimental. What it does mean is that people are going to watch more football. And they have to a pretty damn amazing clip. They have. NFL has benefited a ton from folks who are now watching football even longer. Even shit games, they're watching it. Why? Because they got money on it, which is what we knew. So let's talk favorite thing about today, because there is kind of a fun one that I want to get into. Favorite thing about today. So CES is here in Vegas. That is the Consumer Electronics Show. It is it's the biggest convention in Vegas every year. It takes over everything. And anyone who lives here, we all know that come the first week of January, stay the hell away from the Strip. Unless you have to be down there, don't go down there, because there's nowhere to park. There's nowhere to go. Everything is just monster people, monster displays. It's completely taken over. But one thing did pop today, which I found was pretty interesting. Peacock today made the announcement that they are going to be adding enhancements to their broadcasts, which will allow fans to mute the announcers. You could also control the crowd noise as to how loud that's going to be. This is pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys have noticed, and I love Al Michaels. I do. I love Al Michaels. It's time. It's time for Al Michaels to retire. Al Michaels has lost his fastball in a big way. Chris Collinsworth is hard to listen to at times. He's hard to listen to. I love the idea that we potentially could control the ability to mute broadcasters, to say, hey, I like the crowd noise. I like what I'm watching. I like the game. But Dolby products are now going to be put into the enhancement to these broadcasters on Peacock. And we're going to try to figure out a way to let people have some innovation when it comes to the audio and the sound. And if you don't want to listen to the broadcasters, you don't have to. You can still have the game. We're just going to go click. As Awful Announcing wrote this morning, this is the type of innovation that fans have been clamoring for. While many will still prefer the traditional broadcast with commentators mixed with crowd noise, some viewers might prefer to mute the announcers entirely and hear only the natural sounds of the game. Conversely, other fans might believe the game audio is too loud and prefer to turn the announcers up and keep the crowd noise at a lower level. Either way, putting control in the hands of the fans is a no-brainer if the technology allows for it. I think a lot of you are going to enjoy this. I think a lot of you are going to 100% run to mute some broadcasters. So only right now, but if Peacock has it, JC, everyone's going to have it. If Peacock can show the ability, if Peacock can put it into place and fans like it, everybody will have it. Everybody will allow it to happen. So if only we can mute Orlovsky, Riddick, Roddy Jones. I like it. Favorite thing about today? I love this. Like, this is great. Favorite thing about today, that we could have control over our audio. As an audio nut, I love this because we all know that there's been far too many games ruined by broadcasters, calls that you thought were going to be epic, falling short, things that didn't work, things that weren't fun, all thrown away because of the moment wasn't right. Broadcasters can enhance so much, but they also can take away so much. Sometimes it's just better watch the game. Just give me the game. Let me see the game. If I want the broadcasters, great. If I don't, I don't. Bravo. Favorite thing about today, that we potentially could have a time when we don't have to listen to, oh boy, Jim. Good stuff. Guys, we're back tomorrow for a Bet Chris Arizona Thursday. Where in the world will Adam Bjorn be? I have no idea. He was here in Vegas over New Year's. We'll recap his New Year's Eve party here in town. What country will he be in? I have no idea. But he'll join us tomorrow. We'll break down both games in college football from a betting perspective, and then all 6 games in the NFL coming, 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. We'll do it all with Adam Bjorn coming up tomorrow for a Thursday's Bostonian versus the Book.